Good evening, and welcome to the second in the series for Colorado Outspoken's LGBT Vote '08. Tonight we have the privilege of meeting former State Senate President Joan Fitz-Gerald. Joan has been a longtime supporter of LGBT issues in our state and has taken leadership on such issues as our fully inclusive ENDA, second parent adoption, and Referendum I. She's also received a 100% ranking from Equal Rights Colorado. I'm pleased to introduce to you Joan Fitz-Gerald. Well, I want to just jump right in because I know it's a real busy day for you. In 2008, Colorado has seemingly progressed much further than anybody would have thought in terms of LGBT issues, where we're now to the point where we have 3 newly signed fully inclusive laws, fully inclusive ENDA, second parent adoption, and public accommodations that include LGBT protections. You were instrumental in those legislations being passed, and you even fought hard for those that may not have been as successful. And I'm wondering, how did you become involved in those issues?
This is truly a civil rights struggle for this generation, and it's gone neglected. And it seemed to me it was a very important thing that as President of the Senate, I carried Referendum I because I wanted to make sure it got passed. It's that big, and people really did respond to the fact that when I went to my caucus and said, I'm carrying this, and we're going to do it, it's the right thing to do. And they did respond. 2 of those bills passed while I was President of the Senate, and with transgendered, which, I fault the Congress for backing away from a community that needed that protection. And we did it here, and I just don't see why they couldn't have done it there.
How were you able to do that in Colorado when they're not able to do that at the federal level?
It was a fight. We had a fight. I remember Senator Lamborn, who's now Representative Lamborn, at the well of the Senate. And we were very dedicated to getting this done. We had ENDA before. I remember hearing it when I was chair of the Business Committee. And the stories that people had in their workplace of what happened to them when it was found out that they were gay.
Or even if they're not gay in many cases.
Yeah, that too. But, putting up, pictures of their loved ones, the kind of repercussions that happened were so wrong. And I remember transgendered people coming to the table and testifying. And I was chair, and I asked them, tell me your story. Mm-hmm. These were heartbreaking stories of things that we should have rectified. And I'm very proud of the fact that as a Senate and a House, we got that done and that Governor Ritter signed it. That was a very big deal.
And it was a very interesting strategy that you and the rest of the members of the state representatives and the Senate used to make it a fully inclusive ENDA. Can you explain the thinking behind that?
Well, Senator Vega carried the bill, and she was just, she was wonderful. She was patient, she was smart, she was at times brilliant in defending her bill. And we were not going to back off, and we're not going to allow it to be cut up and have pieces of it passed because, you have a sense of urgency. This is your moment. We had a governor we knew would sign it after having passed it before, having Governor Owens veto it when we were a majority, that you don't get these moments. And, running for Congress, I think that 2009 is going to be one of those moments when we turn directions. And this was a turn in direction for Colorado and a very important piece of legislation.
I want to ask you, now that you are running for Congress in CD2, what do you think are your top 3 issues during your campaign?
People are hurting in this economy, and a lot of it's predicated on funds that this country is spending in Iraq. The money that's going out the door and not returning here, people are very worried. They're worried about their financial futures. They're worried about the health care. They are very worried about health care. If you have it today, if you can afford premiums today, tomorrow you may not. Tomorrow you may have a pre-existing condition. If you change jobs and they decide you're not going to be covered. Those 2 issues, the economy, which is all tied up in the war and spending and debt and health care.
So you see those really as combined as a big economic issue.
Right, they are. And people see this, as a pretty dark cloud.
It's really hard to separate those. They're so intertwined.
They are intertwined. And that's one of the reasons I think when we start to look at how do we make us less dependent on foreign oil and how do we actually help solve this global warming issue, we got to put on a pair of glasses that says everything we do has to be predicated on lowering our carbon imprint and getting us off foreign oil. and reinvigorating our own economy as we do this. I mean, it's all enmeshed in a very different America than the one that we see right now under George Bush and Dick Cheney.
What do you think is the priority for attacking such a complicated and intertwined problem?
We can't do a thing until we get our troops out of Iraq. We've got to redeploy our troops and redeploy the finances that have gone with them. And I'm the candidate in this race that says, we're done with timelines. I want Congress to act as the appropriating arm of government and say we're done, and have the generals withdraw those troops because they don't have any more money for continuing to be in Iraq. The Iraqi people are now telling us we're done. I mean, how clear does that have to be? So as we do that, and we can safely withdraw our troops through 3 passages and get them home, we can start to reinvest in this country. And that's going to be a very critical component of what this next Congress in 2009 has to do.
And what areas beside energy and ending the war do you think that you would like to see us reinvest in?
Well, healthcare. The amount of dollars that we throw into that pool right now into private HMOs and health companies, insurance companies, if you took the money we spend there and the money we spend on public health and put it all in the same pool, we're spending money that should give us better health outcomes. We're like 42nd in industrial nations in longevity and children, making it through infancy. That's terrible for the dollars that we're spending. Plus, people have this terrible fear if they get sick, they can't pay for it. There's a bill in Congress right now I'm very excited about, which is John Conyers' bill for a single-payer health care system. It's got mental health parity, which we need because we're filling prisons with people who have mental illnesses or addictions. It's got long-term care because we've got couples where one partner has to put every resource that they've saved throughout their whole life into taking care of someone in a nursing home. And it's got prescription drugs. Let's get it done.